News. Republican Senator Jeff Sessions of Alabama is a member of the Armed Services Committee of the U.S. Senate, and Senator Claire McCaskill of Missouri is a Democrat who also sits on the same Armed Services panel. Senator Sessions, what do you make of the president's word tonight? It's already out. He's told the bankers today he's going to push some idea of a permanent military security pact with Baghdad.
I don't really know what that's about. You just told me about it, frankly, but...
Doesn't it scare you?
Well, it is a kind of, I'm not sure it scares me. I think it probably is a result primarily of the threat of Iran and the instability that Iran is having in Iraq. The Iraqi leaders, many of them are worried about that, and maybe that would give some sort of confidence. I certainly do not hope it I hope that it does not indicate a very long-term heavy presence of American troops. I've always believed that our goal should be to reduce our presence as soon as feasible.
Senator McCaskill, your view of a permanent U.S. military security pact with the government in Baghdad, whatever that government might be, by the way. We don't know what it'll be like in 5 years.
Well, that's part of the problem here. When you're dealing with North Korea and South Korea, there's a line. There's good guys and bad guys. We're not sure who the good guys and bad guys are even in Iraq at this point. It's a civil conflict between various sects, and we're stuck in the middle of it. But this president clearly has a tin ear about what needs to be done diplomatically. You know, we're building the largest embassy that we've ever built in the world in Baghdad. And, you know, Chris, I'm coming from a state where they made a decision last November. They had a senator that supported the president on every step of this failed policy, and they decided they wanted a different senator. So I feel a frustration and a sense of urgency. We've got to start getting some Republican votes, because this president clearly thinks we should have a long, open-ended commitment that, frankly, we can't afford the loss of lives or the loss of money that we are putting towards this effort.
Not to accuse us of being like the British or the French, or later the Russians. But these Arab people have had experience with Westerners coming in there from the north, from Europe, taking over their countries, saying that we're here for communism, or we're here for monarchy, or we're here for some Western development. We're here to help you. And we bring our armies with us. And they've accused us of doing that in Iraq. And doesn't this make it look like they're right? We're there for the long haul?
I think there is a far more sensitivity to troops in Iraq than has been in Germany or
by the
Korea.
People themselves.
Yeah, the people themselves. And there's a deep suspicion of foreign troops greater than Germany would have had toward American troops or South Korea would have had.
What happened to the southern...
So I think that's
you come from the South, and you represent the people. I know the South is always very pro-military. I don't think that's the issue here. People do care about what happens to our troops being stuck in 120-degree weather permanently. But the idea of entangling alliances and what George Washington warned us against, don't get stuck over there, getting caught up in this web of animosities and getting on the side of the Shia against the Sunni or the other way around. Doesn't it look like if we permanently identify with the Maliki government, we're on the side of the Shia against the Sunnis? Now, the Sunnis are Saudi Arabia, they're Egypt, they're Jordan. Why are we taking sides in the middle of a permanent, ongoing strife in the Middle East?
Well, we're not taking sides.
The president's going to announce tonight that we're going to have a permanent military security pact with Baghdad.
Our policy is a desperate, strong effort to try to hold this country together, to not let it fracture, and to create a stable government that has Shia and Sunni and
How
Kurds
long would you
all in
commit
it.
to that? How long should American troops stay in this foreign country?
I can't predict that.
Okay.
The question is how
60
heavy.
years. The president's talking about Korea.
Troops.
He's talking about a Korean-style commitment.
Well, we certainly have had 40,000 troops. We're now at 33,000 in Korea.
And you know what the casualties have been in the last 60 years?
That's the
hardly
question.
Any.
The question
Except
is
1
the
year in
cost,
66.
the number, and the nature of the presence. You know how many
casualties were taken in Germany since 45? None.
Well, my question, the answer to your question is, how long will it be there? What presence should we have? As small as possible, and absolutely it will be affected by the number and by the threat that they face and the risk that they incur.
Senator McCaskill of Missouri, what will your caucus say tonight if this is the words of the president? He's as clear tonight as he was with the anchor people today.
Well, I think we'll be very troubled by any idea that we're entering into right now a long-term, open-ended commitment backing a government that is precarious at best. I think a lot of people that are very close to it aren't sure how long Maliki can hold on. And it looks like to me we're trying to prop him up because they're incompetently trying to bring everyone together right now. This isn't what we should be doing. I think our caucus is going to continue to say to Republicans, particularly those who are going to be accountable to the voters next year, take a look at what has happened. The president's going to ask for a do-over. He's going to ask the American people to look at this with fresh eyes. We've lost over 3,000 lives. We've spent $500 billion, and we're in no better shape today than we were 5 years ago. In fact, terrorism is more of a problem. There has to be an end to this, and we've got to do more than just draw down the troops that we have to draw down anyway because of our military strength and rotation requirements.
I guess the big question, Senator, and you're a conservative, is what right does the United States government have to be in Iraq on a permanent basis? What right do we have?
Well, first of all, as a conservative, I think I should have been more sensitive to the fact that this is very, very difficult to take a country that has an unfunctioning, non-functioning government and create one. That is not easy.
Well, I always wondered why you traditional paleo-conservatives like you and George Will and Pat Buchanan and from all across the country, people like William F. Buckley, went along with this new ideology of spreading democracy by force, this Napoleonic notion. Where did you guys buy this? What store did you go to pick this in?
College to
but Buckley was against all this stuff.
Well,
and George Willis, I heard him the other day speak against it, but these neos came along, these experts on the world, and they talked the president into it, and you guys went along with it.
Well, I think we were too optimistic and failed to realize the difficulties. Afghanistan went better than people thought. We got over-optimistic.
The first round went better. But, Senator, the West, read history. You read history. The West, the British, the French, the Russians, the Americans, always wins the first round in these struggles. They go into these little third world countries, they kick butt, and everybody cheers them maybe for about an hour or two. And then the natural forces of the country take over. The insurgencies begin. The horror begins. And eventually the outside power is forced out.
Well, we certainly want to get out, in my view. I just want to say this. General Jimmy Jones, he reported his commission last week to our committee. I asked him, General Jones, do you believe we have a reasonable chance to be successful in Iraq? He said, I do, Senator. I said, did any member of your 20-person commission, Congress required them to go look, disagree with that? He looked around. None of them disagreed. General Petraeus told me to my question just the other day, do you think we have a realistic chance to be successful in Iraq? He said, I absolutely do, Senator. And so I think there's a danger of being too negative here. And we have seen progress. We are talking about drawing 30,000 troops down. Deaths in Iraq are down, civilian deaths are down 55%, 70% in Baghdad. Now, whether those numbers hold, I can't say, but don't say that's not progress.
No, it's not. Nobody's saying we're not losing. Nobody's saying we're losing, but the message of Korea back in '52, Senator McCaskill, the message of Korea in '52 and the message of Vietnam in '68. If you're not clearly winning, you are clearly losing, because eventually you have to leave, and that's how you have to look at these things. If you're not winning, the other side doesn't have to win. Maliki can go hide in Iran for 3 years, in 20 years, and come back and take back his country. Eventually we leave, don't we? Maybe we're wrong. Am I wrong, Senator McCaskill? Are we going to stay in that country so long that we can outweight the bad guys on the other side?
Well, Jeff said we can't be negative. This isn't about being negative. This is about being brutally honest about where we are.
We need to be honest, Claire.
Being really honest with the American people. And we have, it's what General Powell said. You break it, you own it. And we've gone from a president who campaigns and he didn't want a nation build to now saying we're going to be there indefinitely forever. And I just think that the diplomacy is so failed here. And I think the hearts and minds war, we are not winning. I just think it is so important that we send a signal to the rest of the world that we're going to prioritize fighting terrorism and not propping up a government that can't get its act together.
Senator Sessions, it's an honor to have you over here. Thank you very much for coming over here from Mississippi. Thank you, Senator Claire McCaskill. Alabama, I'm sorry. I apologize. I know that really matters. Anyway, I knew it was somewhere down near the Gulf. Anyway, thank you. We were watching weather reports together. Coming up, Senator McCaskill, thank you as well. Coming up, President Bush makes his case for staying in Iraq again. David Gergen and Bob Herbert on what Bush will do and won't say tonight.